Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Roots Refuge Farm. My name is Jess. If you're new here, I'm so glad you're here. If you're not new here, I'm also so glad you're here. We are sliding into seed starting season. Of course, I love the garden and sharing all things about the garden. And one of the questions that gets asked a lot when we start this particular season is about seeds, how to store them. So I figured I would dedicate a video to it. I've answered these questions many times in vlogs, but this will be easier to point to. Now, I do have some resources that I've created in the past about seed saving, which obviously that's going to come later in the season when your plants are starting to go to seed or you're harvesting fruit. I'll put some links to those things down below in the show notes, but today I'm really talking about the storage of seeds. So one of the biggest misconceptions that I come across with seeds, buying seeds, saving seeds, storing seeds, is people seem to think that they have an expiration date, which I understand why, because if you buy a package of seeds, let me see, many times you will see a date on them, like right here. This says packed for 2023, sell by 12/31/23. And because we're so used to seeing sell-by dates on food and thinking, well, this food is going to spoil after this date, it might not be safe to eat after this date, we have allowed that to carry over into seeds. And I actually fell for this when I was very early on in gardening, and I threw away a bunch of seeds that I didn't get to use, and some of the packages were even unopened after, one season, because I thought that date on the back meant they weren't going to be good after that. I joke that there's still a package of rainbow carrots that just haunts me because it was unopened. I threw in the trash. Seeds don't expire. That is not how it works. Seed companies are required to package them and sell them for that year, and then can no longer sell them after that. Because it is true that in some cases, especially if not stored properly, the germination rates for seeds can go down in subsequent years. But I have very successfully grown 8 and 9-year-old seeds in my garden. Every year I go back to my seed collection and I'm not concerned about the date. If it is, if the seeds are 5 or 6 years old, sometimes instead of sowing one seed, I'll put a couple in, and a lot of times both of them germinate and I have to thin it. But I will kind of take it into consideration that the germination rate might not be as high. But for the most part, seeds stay good for a very long time. I remember Luke over at My Gardener at one point did an experiment where he had some seeds from a shadow box that were like 80-something years old, and he actually ended up sprouting those, growing them, and now sells the seeds from them in his store, which is pretty cool. And it's a great example to look at to say, oh wait, they're not expiring. They're actually still good for a very long time. The main thing that you really want to do when storing seeds at all, whether they're seeds you purchased or seeds you saved, is keep them cool and dry, and keeping them in the dark is going to help also, just because anything spending a lot of time in direct sunlight, there's some degradation that happens there. One thing I like to do is I like to use waterproof containers. So you've probably seen these pass around. These have become really popular in recent years for storing seeds. This is actually a photo box. This is from Michael's, the craft store. You can Google photo boxes like this, and people are reselling them on Amazon for like $40 or $50. They should not be $40 or $50. You can get these at Michael's. I saw them on sale in there the other day for like 15 bucks. And what it is a plastic container that has a closure, and then it has these little 4x6 boxes, which are for photos, for organizing photos, but they actually perfectly fit most seed packages. And so like this particular container is my tomatoes, and I have a lot of seeds. So I have like one of these boxes for flowers, I have one for tomatoes. I actually have a cool little trunk chest that I keep a lot of seeds in my pantry. So I have a lot of seeds. If you have a small garden, you could likely fit your whole seed collection in one of these containers and just separate it out by different kinds. But I like this. It's nice. And the big thing for me about whatever container I'm going to put my seeds in is that I want it to be maybe not waterproof. I'm not looking for it to need to be submerged in water, but somewhat water resistant. So some years ago, I had my seeds in like a plastic tote in our basement, and we had some flooding, and basically the plastic tote was just sitting in water. And I was really thankful that I wasn't storing my seeds at that point in a cardboard box or something, because had the water seeped in, it could have damaged or ruined my seeds. So I like to put it in something that if something gets spilled on it, or if somehow it gets rained on or whatever, that it's going to be able to repel that water and keep my stuff dry. I will address if your seeds do get wet. Let's say you've got them out on the counter like I do now, and somebody knocks over a cup of water, or you forget and you have a handful of packages outside and you leave them sitting there and it rains on them. They're not necessarily ruined if you get them dry very quickly. So I've done that before. I've actually accidentally left a basket of seeds sitting on the edge of a bed, ran inside, forgot about them, started to rain. And when I remembered, I was like, oh no, because it was several packages of seeds. And what you can do at that point is take them all, you want to open them and get them out of the package and lay them out on like a paper towel or something. Let them completely dry and then repackage them in like a plastic baggie or something. And make sure you label them so you know what you've got. If seeds get wet and you get them dry very quickly before any sort of like sprouting response has been triggered by the wetness, they should be fine. And I mean, honestly, even if you lose some germination rate, it's better than if you throw the whole thing in the trash. You're more likely to get something from it if you at least try to salvage them. The thing is that if you have a bunch of seeds, I have had this happen before where I had a package I accidentally left out or whatever and it got wet and I didn't get it dry, they'll just start sprouting in the package. And once they start sprouting, you got to either put them in some soil and grow them, or they're done for. Like, you can't revert it back to dormancy after it has begun the process of sprouting. So as far as the temperature that you really want to keep your seeds at, whenever we say cool and dry, the cooler the better, really. However, a lot of people do store their extra seeds in the freezer, and you can do that. I act like a seed vault, which is just like a small collection of emergency seeds. I don't ever foresee needing those just because we have so many seeds. And you know, when you've got a garden kind of perpetually growing, you've always got seeds at hand if need to be, because you can let things go to seed and save them. But I stuck one of those like seed collections in the freezer just because, I mean, I think I've read that seeds in the freezer are supposed to be able to last like 25, 30 years easily. I've read a lot of stories of people getting, you know, grandpa's coffee can of seeds out of the back of his freezer and growing them 30 years after he put them in there. And I think that's really cool. Really, ideally, house temperature is cool enough to keep seeds dormant and lasting for a long time. So your house is probably going to run, you know, 75 degrees or cooler than that in most cases, which is like 23 Celsius. And that is really sufficient. Now, being mindful of where you're storing them in your house, where they can be even cooler, is good. Like, I used to keep my seeds in the basement where it was cooler. There was a dehumidifier running, so it was dry enough down there. It wasn't like a super damp place. And my basement was cooler than the rest of the house, so that's just where I kept the seeds. And now I don't have a place like that. My seeds are pretty much at like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 Celsius, and that's fine. That's not going to damage the germination. Now, the thing is that I've had people say, well, you could keep your seeds in your greenhouse. I really wouldn't want to do that, because my greenhouse can easily get to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius, and I want to not put them in that measure of heat, because that would probably damage germination over time. If I leave them out there for a week while I'm actively seed starting, it's not going to hurt anything. But to leave them out there for months on end or even years on end, it wouldn't help. I don't feel like you have to put them in the freezer though. In fact, if you're going to be actively getting them in and out, like you want to get them and look through them, you're going to get them out yearly to seed start, you're going to get them out every few months to succession sow. The in and out of the freezer, I feel like, would probably be more detrimental, because then you're dealing with condensation, you're dealing with potentially moisture coming in. The freezer is more for very long-term seed storage, where you're really trying to kind of have like a backup storage of seeds. And to me, like, I don't have the freezer space to put tons of seeds. I have one small seed collection in the freezer, so that if I ever needed to, I could go back to that. But for the most part, your house is fine as far as temperature. And if you leave seeds like in your car or something and they're exposed to very high temperatures, even if you do it for a few months, I wouldn't throw them away, because again, in the trash can, they're guaranteed to yield you nothing. Whereas if you at least try to grow them, you know, it obviously makes your chances of getting something a lot higher. One of the things that I have done in the past, which I don't always do this now, but sometimes I will, you can get these little baggies. I don't have all my stuff out, but I'll be able to show you a little bit. You can get these little baggies like this in the jewelry section of like the box store. So like if you go to Walmart or something like that, they'll have these in the jewelry section. That's the cheapest place I've found them. You can obviously buy like coin bags, or I think they call these like jewelry you know, zip pouches or something like that. But at the craft section of a Walmart, you can get 100 of these for maybe like $1 or $2. So they're very affordable there. And one of the things that I have done in the past is if I open a seed package and I want to save the rest of the seeds, a lot of times I'll just have these baggies on hand. I'll put the rest of the seeds in this bag and put it back in the seed package. So then I still have the information of the seed package, but I'm just adding another layer of protection so that if at some point I do leave these sitting out or something, they're not going to get wet. That's just something that I do, not always, but often. And having these baggies on hand is really convenient if you're going to be collecting seeds, if you're going to be gathering them up, saving them from your garden, because we gardeners just love to share the seed love. We love to share seeds with other people. And if you have baggies like this, it's just very convenient to be able to put a handful of seeds in it, write directly on the baggie what it is, and give it to somebody. Another tip that I like to share, which is something that I've just kind of figured out over the years, having a lot of seeds around, is I love using washi tape. So this is my big seed package hack that I just want to repeat over and over because it makes such a massive difference in the ease. So a lot of times we have these seed packages that are little paper packages, just like here, and they have an adhesive on the back that you can pull apart, and sometimes you can reseal those. So like this is an In My Gardener seed package, which they have really nice slick packages, and you pull this adhesive apart and you've got your envelope open. And sometimes there's enough adhesive to kind of close it back, but a lot of times after opening it multiple times, and especially over the course of a couple of years, this thing doesn't reseal. There are some companies that have a zipper and waterproof pouches, and while I think that's really cool, I understand why not all the companies do it, because I'm sure it's not cost effective to manufacture. And of course, we can like that sort of stuff, but the cost ends up getting passed on to us as the customer. So what I like to use is washi tape. So this is actually a product that is made for scrapbooking, and it's just this little paper tape that's printed, and it is actually designed to stick and restick and unsticks where you can move it, because the idea is in scrapbooking or crafting and in any sort of paper crafting, you know, you don't want to be putting something on that is immovable. So it's not super sticky, but it is sticky enough. And so this is what I use to reseal seed packages. Again, you can get this at craft stores. You can probably find it online. It might be overpriced online. I don't really know, but it's WASHI. I'll find some and put a link down below, but as far as like cost effectiveness, I would suggest that you go into somewhere like Michael's in person, because usually I don't pay more than like 50 cents to $1 for a roll of these. A lot of times they'll have multi-packs on sale and you can get a whole lot of it for really affordably. And it is great for resealing seed packages because it's meant to be opened again. So it's not going to tear the package when you open this back up, and it gives you the capacity to reseal it over and over again. And if over time this does run out of stick, you can always just get another piece and reseal it again. Plus it comes in so many different designs. You know, I like colorful things. So that's what I use to reseal my seed packages, which keeps my seeds from spilling out all over the place. Because once it's out of that package, all I can tell you, oh, that's a tomato seed, but I have no idea what kind it is. So that pretty much covers keeping things cool, dry, stored properly. The last thing that I would really say is definitely do some sort of organization. So, you know, I mentioned here with these different things where you can easily see what you've got and split it up by different categories. If you're not going to put them in some sort of container like this, even if you get some sort of like snap down plastic tote or something that's going to repel the water, be somewhat airtight, put seeds of different kinds in different bags, or something where you can easily grab and see what you have. I'm all for seed shopping. Obviously, I have way more seeds than I could potentially ever grow. Friend of Roots Refuge Farm, one on our Facebook group, Kim, the other day posted, and I thought this was so stinking funny. She said, "I'm not a seed hoarder. I just shop faster than I garden." I was like, I relate. Definitely. Of course, I love to have lots of seeds because I love to share them and give them away. Having them organized by type, I feel like is really, really important. That way you don't start all your tomato seeds and then, you know, 4 weeks later, whenever you're pulling out your cucumbers, come across another tomato that you forgot about because it was stuck away in a place that you didn't easily access it. Organization is pretty key. Making sure everything is really labeled well is definitely worth it on the front end. Now, there are some types of seeds that quickly lose germination, like corn, onions, carrots. All of these things are things that they're not going to last 80 years like a tomato. I've seen people say they only last 1 to 2 years, but I have also sprouted carrot seeds that were 5 years old. So while the germination may more quickly degrade, I am always going to encourage you, if you come across old seeds, put them in some soil because they will, again, have way more chance of giving you a harvest in soil than in the trash can. So I think that having like a realistic expectation and knowing that even if you do everything right, you're going to lose germination, specifically on some kinds of things more than others, but just do everything right. Do the best you can in storing your seeds to give them the longest shelf life. Use through your older seeds first. So like one of the things that I'll do whenever I am separating my seeds into type is I will have the older ones in the front, and then when I get newer seeds, I'll just put them on the back. And so if I'm going to start big rainbow tomatoes, I always look through first to see if I have older seeds because I want to use those up before getting to the newer ones. Because while they can last a really long time, obviously newer seeds are better as far as germination rates go. So yeah, those are my tips for storing your seeds. Keep them cool, keep them dry, keep them organized, and they are truly a treasure. I look at seeds as a currency, you know, like I feel so equipped to be able to provide for my family when I look at having a large seed collection. I love looking and seeing like the options that I have, and knowing that with just this handful of promise, I can fill my entire garden with food for myself and for people I care about. It's pretty awesome. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope this helps you. I bless you. Until next time.